What's up everyone, Darkside Phil here, and welcome to another episode of the Hateful Truth video game review series, where I give you maximum truth and minimum bullshit regarding the newest retail releases. Now, today the review is going to be a little bit unique because we're going to talk about only the second fighting game that I've ever reviewed here on the Hateful Truth, and here we are, almost 100 episodes, and it's just the second one that I'm reviewing, okay? And the reason that I don't necessarily usually review fighting games per se is because it's very hard to tell if a game at a competitive level is good. And even then, it's hard to even tell because if you think it's good, it's a very subjective thing. The next person might not think that that style of gameplay is good per se. So when I approach the review of this game, what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to approach it from two different perspectives. I'm going to approach it from the competitive Tekken gamer, okay? Knowing that I have background in Tekken, I used to play the series competitively, although admittedly Tekken 5 and 6 I barely touched. I actually did play the first 3 Tekken games competitively. I actually attended many Tekken Tag Tournament 1 tournaments over the years and saw high-level gameplay and understood what went into it. I really feel that I have a unique background and enough knowledge of the way that Tekken has evolved and what it's become today and over the years on a competitive level that I can fairly rate today's game which we're reviewing. On the other hand, I'm also going to review it as the mainstream gamer. I'm going to review it as me, as if I had never played professional fighting games in a tournament setting. Those kind of people aren't necessarily looking for super complex combat engines. They're looking for value. They're looking for a variety of game modes. They're looking for bang for the buck to know that if you paid $60 for a game, that you're going to get enough use out of it, even if you're not playing the game at high level. So, I kind of let the cat out of the bag a little early, but the game we're going to review today is Tekken Tag Tournament 2. Incidentally, I got the Xbox 360 version. We're not going to be talking comparisons between versions because I didn't play the PlayStation version. Some people say the PlayStation has better graphics or more effects or whatever. That's not what we're really here about to talk about today. We're here to talk about the content of the game, okay? Now, the first thing that I want to say, and get this out of the way because I think a lot of people want to know, the strategy guide that was released with this game, the Prima strategy guide. Is it worth it, and what's the deal with the strategy guide? Well, first of all, as you can see, the guide is extremely long, and basically the guide is kind of half and half, comprised of straight up moves lists for each character versus actual strategies for these characters from proven tournament winning players, okay? They actually went out and got 5 guys who have won tournaments and or placed in tournaments, have been a part of the mainstream competitive Tekken community over the past several years, and they got them to play an advanced copy of Tekken Tag Tournament 2 and basically write out in-depth strategies of who you think, you know, is this character good, who's a good tag partner for this character, what are the best techniques, what are the best strategies, what's the best combo, etc., okay? The guide is $25, okay? Now, I'm sure as soon as this game gets older, you can find the guide for a lot cheaper. And yeah, a lot of this stuff is public knowledge. As you know, the internet now has basically revolutionized the way that we share information about games. A lot of people don't buy strategy guides because you're going to find a fact of it online. You can find a walkthrough of it online. But when it comes to having a centralized place to look at all the moves lists without having to pause the game and go inside of like a menu or something like that to look at those, you know, you might actually want a physical guide here to reference. So what I can say, the guide was definitely useful for me as I was learning Tekken Tag Tournament 2. However, there's a lot of stuff in this guide that's just plain wrong, okay? Now, I've actually heard that a lot of the frame data in the back of the guide is incorrect. Now, obviously, I have absolutely no freaking way to confirm or deny any of that. I don't have any way that I can measure frames in a fighting game. But it's been confirmed, supposedly, that a lot of the frame data back here was not correct, which is kind of annoying, because if you're buying this game as a competitive reference, if you're buying this guide as a competitive reference, it's worthless, because you don't know if you can trust the frame data, okay? But here's what I can personally tell you, and this is, I'm just going to bring out one example, and then if anyone else wants to yell and scream and stamp their feet, they can. It's this simple. I had one character who I was playing with at a high level, Wang, okay? And as I was consulting the strategy guide, right here it shows you, oh, these are supposed to be the bread and butter combos for Wang. In fact, they show here that there's a certain combo with Wang, back right punch, back left punch, and then the two punches together, where supposedly you're able to tag after the two punches are pushed together. No, you can't, okay? I'm going to tell you, I sat in practice mode trying to do it repeatedly, and it's not a timing issue. The game, it's easy to tag in and out in this game if you do a move that either initiates a ground bounce or a juggle state. The combo that's listed here as a tag combo is not a tag combo. The guide is innately flawed, alright? Even in some of the strategies and things that I read, they were like, this move does this and has this property. And then when I would actually do the move, it wouldn't have that property. So what I actually think happened here was maybe they gave these guys a beta copy of the game, you know? And let's keep in mind that I'm sure they made this months ago. I think they had an early build of the game, and that some properties of certain moves were changed, which ends up making the strategy guide wrong in the end. So all I have to say is, Namco and Prima, why did you bother hiring 5 professional Tekken players if you didn't give them the final version of the game? I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but this is very hit or miss. I think it's a good guide if you need a moves list, but if you're looking for frame data references, not going to be very useful because you don't know if you can trust the data. Some of the general strategies written for the characters are very useful, but overall the guide is not 100% accurate, so you might want to be wary, especially because you're paying $25 for it. Why they charge an extra $5 when most other strategy guides only go for $20, I have no idea. Maybe they use that extra $5 to pay this guy's salary when it just seems to me like it was wasted if they weren't paying the final version of the game anyway. So that's the strategy guide review. I wanted to stick that into this, but now let's talk about the game itself, okay? On its surface, Tekken Tag Tournament 2 looks like it's rife with content, and let's dig a little bit into that. Tekken Tag Tournament 2 is a dream match game. It's a what-if scenario. It is not a canon entry into the Tekken series, meaning the storylines and things that happen in this game aren't real. It's kind of like a, let's just have fun with it. Let's bring back characters who we know have been dead for quite a while. Let's have the ability to have Kuma and Panda on the same team. You know what I mean? Let's have Armor King and King be able to team up one more time, even though Armor King's been out of the series for quite some time. That's really what Tekken Tag Tournament is. It's like a one-off, you know, what-if scenario where it's just a dream match. When I say dream match, I mean it doesn't really happen in the Tekken universe. It's just a game for the sake of having a fun game, okay? And because of that, you're able to have over 50 characters from the Tekken universe in this game, including some characters that have not been seen since their first appearance, like Tiger Jackson, okay? Fan favorites like Baek and Ganru are returning. Wang returns, even though supposedly he's dead in the storyline. But then, you're also able to have some of the previous favorites come back, like Jun. Kazama is in the game. But for the first time, you're actually able to have some of the older Tekken characters face the brand new guys who just came out in Tekken 5 and 6. So really, this is a dream match case where there's an overwhelming amount of characters to play with in Tekken Tag Tournament 2. The game modes. Well, you've got your standard arcade mode, where you play through the arcade mode, and it's, you know, I think it's 7 matches, and then 2 boss fights, and then you get an ending, an FMV, for your character. You have the ability to either pick a tag team or a single character, and this is actually part of the key changes of Tekken Tag Tournament 2, is that unlike the original Tekken Tag Tournament, you're not forced to pick a tag team. You can pick a solo character. The difference being that you'll have basically 1.5 times as much life as each one of the characters on a tag team, but you're still at a major disadvantage. You have no one to tag out with, you can't recover health during the round, and you don't have as much life as if you had 2 full characters, okay? That being said, it takes longer to kill you because you have more life, and it's not like a lot of the times in the gameplay of Tekken Tag Tournament 2, one character has half life, gets randomly counter hit, and the entire bar melts away with the juggle combo, and you're like, fuck, that's crazy. I didn't think that was going to lose the round like that. In this case, it's a lot harder to kill these characters because they have so much extra life. It's very hard to maybe knock them off with 1 or 2 combos, okay? So that's a major change in the Tekken Tag Tournament gameplay. Outside of arcade mode, you got time attack mode, where it's the same thing as arcade mode, except that you're trying to beat it within a certain amount of time. You're being timed while you do it. You've got survival mode, which is just what it sounds like. You and either yourself as a solo character or your tag team go up against an endless onslaught of characters, And if you survive, if you beat them one round, you actually get some health back before you fight a next group of characters. And it's just an endless gauntlet mode, okay? You've got practice mode, where obviously you go into practice and you practice the game. It's just a standard, training mode, practice mode, whatever you want to call it. There's ghost mode, where you can fight ghosts of characters. Basically, you're enlisting a different AI, okay? And that's kind of neat. There's been some updates to that mode since the game came out. You can actually download ghosts online. So that's kind of a neat mode. I never really checked it out, just because I really didn't care about fighting against the AI that much. Then you've got Fight Lab, where this is a little on the unique side because it actually is the tutorial mode of the game. It's called Fight Lab, and it's kind of funny. It's almost like the campaign of the game. It's got its own story. It's got its own characters. It teaches you most of the basics of the game, and in saying something very positive about it, I never played Tekken Tag Tournament 1 at a competitive level. In fact, I never really played the game. So I didn't understand anything about the tag mechanics of this game. After completing the Fight Lab mode, which takes about maybe an hour to an hour and a half, I understood most of the tag mechanics. I was doing tag combos in and out, and I was doing stuff with the game. A major detriment of the Fight Lab mode, though, is that it doesn't teach you everything about the game. There are special character-specific tags and tag teams that you would not know about if you just relied on Fight Lab. There are just frames that aren't discussed in the Fight Lab. That's a just frame, if you don't know, is when you actually time a button press a specific way, so that if you time the button during a certain window of time, a better version of that move will come out, okay? And this has been in Tekken since Tekken 4, never discussed in Fight Lab. Even some of the mechanics of tagging. There's a mechanic where if you're on the ground and your tag partner has a full rage bar, which we're going to discuss what rage means, but it has a full rage bar, you can tag them in by jumping in, and it really could save your ass. Not discussed in Fight Lab mode. So there's a lot of game mechanics never discussed in the tutorial mode of the game, where you would just never know they're even in the game, why they left them out, why they couldn't make the Fight Club mode 2 hours instead of an hour or hour and a half. I have no idea. It seems like a glaring gap right there. There's a big thing missing, okay? And then outside of the Fight Lab mode, you've got Customize mode, which is pretty cool. You can take any character in the game, and as you play the different modes of the game, you accumulate what are called points or gold, whatever you want to call it. It's the currency of the game. You use the currency of the game to actually buy accessories for your characters, and you can make customizable outfits. Really neat. You can actually make a character look nothing like who they are. In fact, there's certain outfits that purposely are made to make the characters not look like who they are, and it's a little weird, but it's funny as hell in a lot of cases too. You can also fully customize the coloring of most of the accessories and things. There are actually items that you can add that are weapons, like a handgun, swords, that you can actually use in combat. Of course, this is probably going to be banned from tournament play. I would only assume it is, or else the game's going to become something like Super Smash Brothers. But it was a fun thing they added in there as like an added extra, just almost make the game a little bit more crazy, zany, party-like, okay? So Customize mode is a hell of a lot of fun. You might actually end up finding yourself grinding in the other modes just to get enough currency for Customize mode to make your characters look completely whacked out. In fact, by the time that I kind of finished my gameplay of the game, my Wang was completely decked out and looked just like Master Roshi from Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. I thought that was really cool and really neat and really fun, okay? Now you've also got online play. You've got two modes, the ranked and the player matches. Ranked matches, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but they are innately flawed, and here's why. Ranked matches, first of all, allow you to play as either a tag team or a single character. Now, first I was pissed off about this during my gameplay. Then I actually was told by people, no, Phil, actually, it seems that tournament directors are going to allow people to pick the solo characters if you want. And I said, well, if that's the case, then okay, that should be allowed. If it's going to be allowed in tournament play, it should be allowed in the ranked match online play of the game, okay? But ranked matches also allow customizable outfits, to which I say that's complete bullshit. You can't use those in tournament because they're distracting. There was actually a couple matches where I was fighting, I think it was Lars and somebody else, but they had customized their outfits to the point where they were in full bodysuits, and you couldn't even recognize who the characters were. So during the match, you don't even remember who you're fighting. Like, who the fuck is this? And all of a sudden, he pulls out this crazy move and beats your ass because you're like, oh, I was fighting Lars. Well, I didn't know that because it looks nothing like fucking Lars. That shouldn't be allowed in a ranked match. Also, They allow the items in the ranked matches. They let you pull out a Glock and start fucking shooting at someone. What the fuck were they thinking there? A ranked match is supposed to represent high-level competitive tournament play, not fuck around with 100 stupid customizable things and not let you play in a serious environment. And that's the problem, the innate problem with the ranked matches in this game, is that it's not always at a tournament level or even a competitive level. You got people who are just fucking around with stupid items and with dome costumes, and you might get frustrated if you're actually trying to learn the game and you have to go through bullshit matches online because of this kind of stuff. So I don't know what they were thinking with the ranked matches, but there's a couple flaws there that should, I would hope, get patched in the future when people who are trying to play this game competitively complain enough about it, okay? Now, the player match system allows for up to 6 people to be in a lobby at once, and similar to other fighting game lobbies, you can spectate, you can watch the matches, you can actually, there's a chat room that you can chat, but even the player matches have an innate flaw. If the host quits, the entire lobby collapses. So I was actually in a lobby with 6 people. I was the last one to join. Every single person played. When it was my turn to play, the match before the host had lost, and he said, fuck it, I lost, I don't want to play anymore. He quit, and the whole game shut down. I said, oh, sorry, host left, game is gone. So I waited there for half an hour to play, and I never got to fucking play. What the fuck were they thinking? The room should be hosted server side so that if the host drops, someone can still play the game. Like, it makes no fucking sense. That's like common sense for people who have played fighting games online, that's how it's supposed to be done. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking with the player matches of Tekken Tag Tournament 2. Completely dumbfounded by how dumb they are, okay? Alright, so those are the game modes of the game. Now we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty. We're going to talk about the competitive nature of the game and what I think of the gameplay, and then we're going to get to what I think about the game as a whole overall. So we're talking, what will the competitive players think, and what will the average gamer think, okay? Well, here's the thing. This game is pretty much fan service to anyone who's stuck along with the Tekken series for the whole ride, okay? Being able to have this dream match scenario and play as someone like Jinpachi, who was the boss of Tekken 5, against Ganru or Bayek or excuse me, Alex or Roger Jr. You know, these characters that really haven't been around for quite some time is really neat, okay? And so, right there, if you're an avid fan of Tekken, this is probably going to be a must-buy, because you get to play as these characters who maybe you've been waiting to come back. When I actually went to buy this game at GameStop, the person in line behind me says, oh, I see we're getting the same game. Yeah, I can't believe it. They brought back Tiger Jackson. I'm buying it just for him. To which I'm like, damn, people who are hardcore Tekken fans back in the day probably would come out and buy Tekken Tag Tournament 2 because it has fan service by bringing back all these characters. That being said, you do have to understand that a lot of the characters are extremely similar. They're not necessarily palette swaps in a lot of cases, but sometimes they are. Kuma and Panda are the same character, okay? Christy and Eddie are the same character. Tiger Jackson has some of the same moves as Christy and Eddie, okay? Here's a good example. Jun Kazama is in the game, but she was from Tekken 2 and then she went away. Well, they brought back June, but now Asuka, who was brought in at a later Tekken installment and had some of the moveset of June, is also in the game. So you have some characters that are very similar in fighting style. And keep in mind, yeah, Jin, Heihachi, Kazuya, Jinpachi, they all have extremely similar movesets. There are variations that set them apart, but they are very similar. So you have to understand that, yeah, it says there's 50-some characters. You're going to have a lot of overlap with some of these characters. But that being said, there's still a tremendous amount of fighters to play as from the get-go, and it's already been announced there's going to be several free DLC characters. You heard it here. Free DLC characters. Capcom, are you fucking listening? Free! Not, we nickel and fucking dime you for the next 2 years and slowly release characters that are already on the motherfucking game disc. They actually are going to give you free content if you purchase the game. So in one respect, Namco really learned from the whole Capcom controversy over the past couple years, and they're doing it right in that regard, okay? Now let's talk gameplay. The gameplay of Tekken Tag Tournament 2 is a combination of everything that we've had in Tekken up to now. You've got your basic gameplay of the original games. You've got the juggles and off the ground and tagging back and forth that originated back in Tekken Tag Tournament, but it's got some variations and additions this time. You've got a new rage system where your tag partner might actually get do extra damage, especially on counter hit, and it may allow them to tag in a certain way. If you're getting beat up, you know, it builds up your other character's rage meter, and so that's a new mechanic in the game. The just frames from past Tekkens are back in the game, okay? Not, I shouldn't say back, they never really went anywhere, but they're still in the game. So the gameplay is a unique combination of kind of all the previous Tekkens. Now, I want to warn people, okay? If you did not play the previous Tekkens, this game is going to have a massive learning curve for you. Let me say this again. This is not a game that is easy to jump into as a first game. Especially if this is your first Tekken game ever, you'll probably be shitting yourself within the first 10 minutes of gameplay. Because there's a lot of shit that's accumulated over the years between the ground bounces, the tagging in and out, the juggle system, the OTG system, all this stuff that's going on. Just frames, just frames may boggle you because they are kind of difficult to do until you get kind of the muscle memory timing to know how to do them properly. So there's a lot of shit that goes into this game, okay? And from what I can tell you from the gameplay that I've seen and also what I put in online and stuff like that, the game is pretty solid. What I would probably say is that competitive Tekken players are probably going to cream themselves with this game. It's got every character from Tekken. They're finally together in a competitive game. It's got the fun tagging system that people actually really, really enjoyed back in Tekken Tag Tournament. And to be honest, Tekken Tag Tournament, by adding the juggle and tag system, actually took the Tekken series from more of a, okay, it's a cool 3D fighter, into the realm of tournament gameplay. That was really the version of the game, the iteration that pushed it into a tournament setting. And ever since then, Tekken 4, 5, and 6 have been huge in the tournament competitive scene. So, basically what I'm telling you is at high levels, this game is really good, okay? I can tell you, the counter hits, everything that it feels like Tekken with a cool new addition of the tagging, if you've never played Tekken Tag Tournament before, and a new rage system, and, you know, all the stuff like being able to charge up and get the counter hit to come in to play. It's all there, and it's all fun. So, at a high competitive level, I'm going to say this game is a lot of fun. This is the kind of game, that's why people say, Phil, gee, you actually played a lot of Tekken Tag Tournament. We're surprised because you didn't play a lot of other games. Well, I'm not saying that those other games weren't great at a competitive level, but I had enough background with this game to understand the basics and then learn some of the more advanced stuff, so then when I actually went online with a set, no, I'm not by any means saying I'm tournament worthy and that I'm going to be a tournament champion, because I'm not even going to enter tournaments for this game, and no, I would get my ass handed to me. I don't have years and years and years of recent experience to say that I'm good at this game, but I can tell you, I can see what the tournament level is going to be like, and it's going to be interesting and fun. There are a couple annoying things about Tekken. If you get counter hit at the wrong time, you can lose like more than 50% life to one or two freaking hits, okay? And there's a lot to be said about that, because there are a lot of times when you're playing a game like this online and some guy just throws out a random move and, oh, it's just your bad luck that you were doing something in the middle of it, boom, a huge counter hit that takes half your energy bar. Then, well, guess what? The nature of the beast of Tekken Tag is juggling. Almost, I'd say, you know, 50% of the gameplay is based off of juggles. If you don't know all the good combos and juggles for your characters, you're not going to survive out there. So, oops, I already got super lucky and got a counter hit. Now let me do this stupid pattern juggle that I learned online, and here it comes. Juggle, 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 juggle. Oh, now you're trying to get off the ground, and that's another thing that's become staple with Tekken games. You try to get up, and they find 700 ways to keep you down or punish the way you're trying to get up. So here they come, kick, 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 kick. Oh, you're dead. And it can be extremely frustrating for someone who's not a high-level tournament player to try to get into this game, because you are going to get your ass handed to you with stuff like that. It is not a beginner-friendly game. So again, I'm going to say it one more time. Warning, if this is your first Tekken game, you are going to be fucking crapping blood within the first hour of gameplay when you go to try to play somebody online, or even the arcade mode. And we're going to talk a little bit about the different game modes and how for the common gamer, you know, that's going to reflect. But it's a difficult game. There is a steep learning curve, and you are going to need to do a lot of repetitive things to grind and finally get yourself into a mindset of understanding everything that's going on in the game and being able to hang with other people, okay? So competitive-wise, I think the game's going to be very successful. I think people are going to love it and they're going to play it at tournaments for a couple years at least until maybe there's an expansion or something. But it is a very tournament-worthy game, and at high levels, I think it really is going to be a good game, okay? So for the competitive gamer, I think this is great. I think that fans of Tekken will love this game. I think that competitive players who've recently played Tekken competitively in the past couple installments will also love this game, okay? Now let's talk about the common gamer, because let's face it, competitive tournament level play doesn't necessarily make a game a bestseller. There are plenty of games that Capcom put out over the years, Street Fighter versions, that weren't really good sellers, but they were really highly regarded games when it came to the tournament scene, okay? Tekken Tag Tournament 2 falls short a lot when it comes to the amount of content in the game for people who aren't necessarily looking for a competitive experience, okay? Now, you heard what I said. The game's got arcade mode, it's got time attack mode, it's got survival mode. And all the things that I mentioned earlier, did you hear the startling thing that's left out? Story mode. There's no story in Tekken Tag Tournament 2. It is a dream match scenario. So because it's a dream match, there's really no story to play through and understand, you know, any kind of a story of the game. Now, there are other fighting games recently that have done the same thing, which is perfectly fine, but I'm just saying, the average gamer is probably looking for a little bit more than just arcade mode where you're playing against the computer and there's nothing really happening besides one FMV that you get at the end of the game. In addition to that, the Fight Lab, like I said, the tutorial, is startlingly short and leaves out a lot of the critical things you need to know in order to be successful at the game. So again, if I didn't buy the strategy guide, okay, and I'm not watching tutorial videos online, and I'm not watching all these videos of people who are top-level players trying to teach you how to play the game, then you're probably missing out on a lot of the stuff, such as I said, there's special tag combinations you can do in the game. There's the whole rage system with the special way to tag in and out. None of this is explained in the guide, just frames, not explained in the Fight Lab tutorial. I don't know what they were thinking there, okay? Excuse me. And then, another startling thing that was left out, which really just, like, stunned me, okay? Most fighting games that have been coming out over the past several years, and I'm not just saying Capcom games like Street Fighter 4 or, you know, Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 or Street Fighter Cross Tekken. We're talking the King of Fighters 13. We're talking the recently released Persona 4 Arena. All of these fighting games are now offering either, it's called a challenge mode or a trials mode. And what this mode does, it does add massive replayability to the game, because what it does is it allows you to pick any character in the game, immediately start practicing their basic special moves, okay? Then learning some of their very basic bread and butter combos, which basically means the combos that are reliable and are some of the best and easily done, but also the most useful in a competitive setting. And then it usually takes you to the next level and challenges you to do some very, very difficult and challenging combos that are may look kind of flashy, may look fun, but may not be the best in a tournament setting, okay? Tekken Tag Tournament 2 opts to not do any of that. What it does is it has a moves list that you can stare at and try to figure out what the fuck those moves are supposed to be, okay? It doesn't really hold your hand at all and try to explain you how to do stuff. Now, you can actually, in the moves list, at any time, activate something, and the game will actually play through it. So, there's a moves list of all the moves in the game, which is extremely confusing for some characters who quite literally can have more than 100 moves, like King, okay? You're not going to know what moves are good or bad, because the game doesn't have a Trials or Challenge mode to show you what the basic moves are, how they're implemented, and if they're good or not, okay? In addition, the in-game moves list also does feature combos, okay? It does actually have some combos for these characters, which you can actually, again, you can play through them, and basically you can see how they're done. But what I'm trying to say here is, just because you have a moves list in the game doesn't mean that it's the same as a fully featured challenge or trials mode, okay? And even saying that, the moves list, maybe each one, I think Some of them have up to like 7 combos listed. But again, you never realize, gee, which one's the one I should be using in a tournament setting? Is this one easy to pull off? It's not as full-featured as other fighting games. And I don't understand why they didn't. And I know a lot of people will say, well, they went a different route. You know, a lot of these games, they're copying each other. Now they all have the same modes. That's true, but the reason... God damn it, I'm going so long on this review because I feel I want to give enough detail that my camera ran out of time. So here we go. I'm just editing this in to finish the review. But if the same game modes are in multiple fighting games, it's probably because the first game that had it, it was a great idea. And everyone said, wow, everyone really liked that idea. Having these challenge and trial modes actually adds a lot of value to a fighting game, okay? And so the average person may think that it's fun to try to pull off these really cool advanced combos, and they want to have a trial mode where they can try to do it. They don't want to have to stare at a moves list and try to see if they're doing it right. They want a full-fledged mode for it. It doesn't exist in Tekken Tag Tournament 2, and I don't understand why that was left out. In addition to all of this, the arcade mode, which is basically supposed to be the featured mode of the game, can actually be gruelingly difficult at times, okay? Unfortunately, what they've done with the AI of fighting games over the past several years, and not even, I would say the past decade, what they've done is they've gone from one thing to another, and let me explain. Back in the 90s, when fighting games were first becoming prominent, what they would do is they would actually have a certain AI pattern built into the character. So if you were fighting Paul Phoenix, you would know he's probably going to do a hammer fist into a dash punch. He's probably maybe going to do this certain punch combination. Maybe he'll try to throw you once in a while, okay? And you would learn the pattern and you would beat it. And no, it wouldn't be like fighting a real human, but at least you've learned the pattern and you'd beat it. Today what they've done is they've put in these AI algorithms that basically say, if this character presses or if the player presses a button, do this move immediately to counter it, okay? Because this is a highly likely counter hit move that if it does hit, it'll lead to massive damage and a juggle, and it'll be really high risk, or it's risky, but there's high reward if it works. So a lot of the times you'll just go to play this game and you'll beat the first 3-4 people in arcade mode, no problem. Then all of a sudden, out of the fucking clear blue sky, the next guy literally counters every single move you try to do. Oh, I press kick. Oh, he does the perfect uppercut into a juggle. What the fuck? How did he know? Tag out. Okay, here goes my next. Oh, look at this. Does the perfect move to counter hit that? And you're like, what is going on? And the bottom line is the game does cheat. The game detects your button inputs, and based on your button inputs, it'll actually do moves in response, which isn't what actually happens in a competitive match of a fighting game, because your opponent can't fucking tell when you're pressing the buttons. All they can do is visually see what's happening on the screen and react. They can't see, oh, pressing that button, I know to do this move in response. That's not fair, and that's really what the AI of Tekken Tag Tournament 2 attempts to do in a lot of cases. I really feel, and a lot of people have said this, a lot of my fans have said this, they're trying to beat arcade mode and they fucking can't. Like, the last couple of guys especially are retardedly fucking hard. And for me, no, they're not retardedly hard, because I've played Tekken over the years. I understand some of the most basic things that actually are really rewarding against the computer, but at the same time, even I am losing to the arcade AI every once in a while, because it'll just randomly know what I'm doing and do something to counter it perfectly, which is complete horseshit. So if you're trying to learn Tekken Tag Tournament 2, I don't know if I can even recommend that you go into the arcade mode, because you're probably just going to get yourself frustrated as hell, because the game basically doesn't play in any kind of a pattern like you would expect it to from older fighting games. Instead, it uses this jittery AI that reacts to what you do. And although the Tekken Tag Tournament 2 isn't the only fighting game to do this recently, it certainly is the most frustrating and annoying, especially when, keep in mind, there's no story mode. There's no trials mode. So what is the common person who doesn't wish to go online and get their ass handed to them before they sufficiently play the game enough, what mode are they supposed to play? They go to arcade mode, they get their ass whooped. They go to survival mode, they get their ass whooped. They go to time attack mode, which is identical to arcade mode. They go, I guess you could do team battle mode, but that's a really weird mode that's been around from Tekken for a long time. Really doesn't add anything to the game. I guess I should mention it. Really doesn't add anything to the game at all. It's just a staple of the Tekken series since way back when, before Tekken Tag actually was still in the game. So really, team battle mode isn't even worth mentioning in this review. But Yeah, the common person who, here's what I really feel. The common person can go buy a game like Street Fighter 4, like Marvel vs. Capcom. Hell, even something like King of Fighters that's a little bit more harder to control, and at least they're going to get some cool stuff out of the game, okay? At least they're going to get, okay, there's a cool story. Okay, I get to play around with trials and do this kind of stuff. None of that's in this game. It's basically a bare bones competitive fighting game. So I really feel that the common person is not going to like this game unless they actually feel that they want to challenge themselves and actually get good enough at the game that they can play it at a competitive level. The only exception to this is, let's say you have a group of friends who likes to just fuck around. Well, have your friends come over because there's going to be 50 fucking characters to pick in this game, and you guys can have fucking kangaroos fight panda bears, fight dinosaurs, fight giant cyborg robots and teleporting demons, and people shooting electricity out of their fucking dick holes. Like, that's all in the game, and that's well and good, but it's just going to be fun for this person to fuck around with, you know? You know what I mean? Like, I can understand if you're treating it like that and you're not trying to really get that much out of the game and you're just fucking around with it with your friends, then okay, that could be a selling point for the game. But if you're buying the game and you want to get value out of the game, if you're not going to try to play this game at a competitive level, you're wasting your time and your money. That's my real feeling on it. The best overall thing about the game is the graphics, honestly. The graphics blow you away. And the common gamer would say, wow, these graphics are groundbreaking. But to be honest with everyone, Tekken Tournament 2 could have come out in 1998. And the only thing that would make me think that this game came out in 2012 and not 1998 is the graphics, okay? The game modes that are in the game were in the same fighting games during 1998. Like, I don't see any real added content, value, or advancement since Tekken Tag Tournament 1. Yes, the competitive combat system has improved, but where are all the features of the modern fighters? No story mode, again, no challenge mode. Where are these? They're not in there. So, what I'm really trying to say here, which I think I've kind of beaten a dead horse, is that competitive gamers are going to love this. Hardcore Tekken fans who want to play with all the characters from throughout the entire series in this dream match setting are going to love this, and everyone else is going to say, what am I supposed to do with this? Okay? Graphics alone do not make a game. Well, now kind of on the flip side of that, just because a game is really good at high levels, that alone doesn't make it a game that mainstream common gamers are going to like. And I really think that's what's going to happen with this game. The common person isn't going to like it because it's too difficult. There's not enough content for them. They don't want to learn the game at a competitive level. They're just trying to have fun. And the game, even when set to the easy difficulty, makes it difficult to have fun with it because of the nature of the way it was made. So, my honest feelings, Tekken Tag Tournament 2, as a competitive game, okay, I actually give it an 8 out of 10. I think that on a competitive level, this game will be great. The fact that there are so many characters to deal with basically makes it that the game is going to be an open slate for a while. People are going to be experimenting with these characters for quite a while until they figure out who exactly is the absolute best in a competitive setting. And that's a good thing. And the fact that they did add the rage mode, and they did add new ways to tag, and new character-specific tagging and things like that. All those things are excellent, okay? But for the common person who doesn't give a shit about the competitive game nature of this game, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. The common person is not going to get enough out of this game to be satisfied with it. It's just slightly above like an average game in that regard. It's lacking game modes that other mainstream fighters recently have had. The AI is fucking stupid to the point where like you need to know how to play the game well to do well against the AI. It's definitely not user-friendly. And the tutorial mode is fucked. It's a half of a tutorial. It doesn't teach you a lot of the critical things that you actually need to learn to play the game competitively. So why the fuck would you make a game that obviously they're trying to get you to play competitively and then make it a fucking tutorial that's half done? It doesn't make sense. So, not enough content in comparison to other fighting games that have come out recently. The only thing where this game really excels would be the graphics for the common gamer, but the common gamer doesn't want to pay $60 for a fancy looking fighting game that they can't really play or have fun with, okay? So for the competitive gamer, it's an 8 out of 10. It's up there, it's tournament worthy, it's fun, it's robust, and it's great. For people who don't care about the competitive nature of the game, I'm only giving it a 6. So I had to give it 2 scores. I had to see it from the 2 different perspectives. That's my honest feeling about Tekken Tag Tournament 2. Whew, and that was a mouthful. I hope that at least I've given everyone enough information now that you can actually go out and make a judgment for yourself whether or not you want to check out this game. That's my honest feelings, and that's the hateful truth about Tekken Tag Tournament 2. Ugh. Okay, so thank you for... I'm not having a lot of luck with this review. First I went long, and so the memory card, or not the memory card, I'm sorry, the camera forced me to stop recording, and that's why I had to edit in the last part. Now, I realized I had a faulty battery in the camera, and the battery said it had like 2 hours and only had 30 minutes of charge in it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the review. I know it went super long, but I also know a lot of people want to know whether they should invest their time and money in this game. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not planning on playing it on a competitive level, it's a skip. It really is. It's a dream match scenario. You're not missing out on any story or anything like that. It doesn't have enough game modes, and the common person isn't going to like it. So, thanks a lot for tuning in to The Hateful Truth. I hope now you can judge for yourself whether or not Tekken Tag Tournament 2 is your cup of tea. I hope that I gave you maximum truth with minimum nonsense and bullshit and smoke and mirrors that the mainstream media usually give you. And I will see you next time for another edition of The Hateful Truth. Peace.